Womanjeka everyone, Womanjeka meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of 3 families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandins, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The 3 families all descend from one woman called Annie Bharat, which makes us one big family. Annie Bharat is the youngest sister of William Bharat, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Watharong and Dja Dja. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Mooloolik Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil the wedge-tailed eagle is our creator, and Waa the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Mayor of Moonee Valley City Council. We aim to get started every second Tuesday at 6:30pm. However, sometimes there are some delays behind the scenes that we need to work through, and we appreciate your patience. You can have a look at our agenda online for all the issues that we'll be talking about tonight, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. So every second Tuesday we work through our council agenda, and what that means is working through things from procedural, day-to-day issues, financial reports, all the way up to the most important things in Moonee Valley, in Victoria or in Australia. And councillors can put up alternatives to that, can put up our staff officers' recommendation, and we can debate that and vote yes or no at the end of the day.
Wominjeka everyone, Wominjeka meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of 3 families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandins, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The 3 families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Wathaurong and Dja Dja Wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Moolalic Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Welcome everyone to the Council meeting on the 28th of May 2024, which I now declare open at 6:31 p.m. I'd like to warmly welcome the members of the public in the gallery who have joined us tonight, as well as those watching at home on our live stream. As well as being live streamed, the recording of this meeting will be available afterwards, so a reminder to members of the public in the gallery that your presence may be recorded. And I'll also ask that mobile phones be switched to silent mode during the meeting, and a reminder that as per Governance Rule 75.1, personal video and audio recordings are not allowed. On behalf of Moonee Valley City Council, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their spirits, ancestors, elders and community members, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Item 2 is apologies and leave of absence. Councillor Bettio has provided his apology to tonight's meeting, otherwise everyone else is here. Item 3 is confirmation of minutes. Councillors, can I please have a mover and seconder that the minutes from the council meeting held on Tuesday the 14th of May 2024 be confirmed? Moved Councillor Sypek, seconded Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Sypek, would you like to speak to your motion? Councillor Hodgson, no. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 4 is declarations of conflict of interest. Does any councillor have a conflict of interest in any item to flag on the agenda this evening? If not, we move into presentations. Councillors, I'll ask if you have any presentations first. Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mayor. On Friday of last week, myself and some fellow councillors and some staff from the Moonee Valley Council attended the Women's in Business Lunch, which was the 15th anniversary at the Hyatt at Essendon Fields. It was a wonderful event. It was emceed brilliantly by Claire Hooper, and we were treated to a really wonderful speech about resilience and transformation by Nyadol Nguyen. The day was wonderful, being able to network with many, many other women who work in and own their own businesses. The staff at the Hyatt were fabulous, food was great, and it was just a really wonderful opportunity to get to know the local business women. And yeah, it was a wonderful event. I look forward to hopefully attending again next year.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Any councillors have any presentations? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. On Saturday, I joined the Mayor at the Jering Flemington Hub for an important signing of the state-funded Flemington Works program. Council's been working with over 50 stakeholders on a community conversations project to progress working more collaboratively and achieving social and economic inclusion for residents of the Flemington housing estate. So an important step in that was, in this collaborative effort, was to have all of the partners sign on to a local alliance, and the alliance is a commitment to working together to foster inclusion, address systemic challenges and enhance effectiveness and efficiency. And it was really well orchestrated. There was a big statement along the table, and everybody got their pens and at the same time signed their names on that statement, and it was a wonderful moment. Our local member for Essendon, Honourable Danny Pearson, was there because he's the chair of the Flemington Works Strategic Advisory Group, and he congratulated all of the members of that group. Attendees also included Homes Victoria, Department of Education, Department of Families, Fairness and Housing, CoHealth, Moonee Valley Legal Service, the Ubuntu Project, and many residents of the housing estate.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. I will now suspend our standing orders at 6:35 p.m. to enable a special presentation from members of our Community Advisory Panel. So I'll ask you to join us at the podium, say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor Tyson, councillors, council staff and guests. Dwayne and I are speaking on behalf of the community group. We formed as part of the Moonee Valley Community Advisory Group to work together. We came together on 4 Saturdays to come up with a strategy for housing for all in 2040.
I'd just like to thank the council and for the opportunity to come together as a group with the community advisory panel. So 30 to 40 of us who spend our Saturdays putting a lot of time and effort into these recommendations. So really looking forward to seeing what happens with them. Hope you take the time to read the recommendations and the intentions under each of the recommendations as well. And then we look forward to hearing the outcomes of what happens with the recommendations and how they get incorporated into the Moonee Valley 2040 strategy.
Thank you, Jody and Dwayne, and thank you all of the other members of the advisory panel who have joined us tonight. It's, I think, especially important for us, given the challenges that are going on, not just in Moonee Valley, Melbourne, but across Australia in terms of housing, that this was an incredibly important time and a timely piece of work, and in something that is generally pretty controversial in the community. I really appreciate the Saturdays that you've given up, and really look forward to us working as we develop our housing strategy. So thank you on behalf of myself and councillors to our panel members.
Thank you.
And we'll now just get a quick photo.
So if you just all come in front of the camera.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you, panel members. We've got a bit of reading to do now as well. So I'll now resume standing orders at 6:38 to move on to item 6, petitions and joint letters. I believe we've received a change.org petition titled Off Lead Time for Dogs. Change.org petitions do not include the email addresses of each petitioner as required by Governance Rule 62.3.4 unless Council determines otherwise by resolution. Therefore, can I have a mover and seconder that Council resolves to accept a Change.org petition titled Off Lead Times for Dogs to be presented at this Council meeting? Moved Councillor Adams, seconded Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor O'Neill, would any councillor like to speak to the item? No? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Now that the petition can be accepted, who would like to table it? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. Council has received a petition signed by 60 local residents. The petition states that there are minimal off-lead areas within the Essendon-Windy Hill area and is seeking some shared off-lead areas with certain provisions to protect the amenities and safety of the community, including restricted off-lead times, example between 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. The second provision would be dogs must be under control, recall and not aggressive. And the third provision would be owners must pick up after the dog and prevent digging. The petition also seeks that no fines be issued until some off-lead areas and times are provided. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Under Governance Rule 62.4, I refer that petition to the CEO for consideration. Are there any others? Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have a petition in regards to the Centreway Playground.
Yep. What is your petition? Yes, thank you.
Okay. The Council has received a petition signed by approximately 236 residents. The petition requests that Council reinstate funds back into the budget that were allocated for the aviation-themed playground at Centreway, Keilor East, and the reasons are that the current playground is inadequate, small, ageing, and there has been an influx of young families into the area, resulting in an increase in the usage of the park and equipment, and the current equipment does not cater for the current usage. And these 236 are in conjunction with the 352 that I presented 2 weeks ago. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Under Governance Rule 62.4, I refer that petition to the CEO for consideration. Item 7 is public question time, and we have one tonight from Anton Mifsud, who is not joining us this evening. So Anton's question is, what is MVCC doing to advocate on behalf of cyclists and their safety on Ascot Vale Road, or at the very least, advocacy for the stretch of road between the roundabout on Ascot Vale Road and Racecourse Road and Smithfield Road in light of the recent apartment developments? Thanks, Anton, for your question. I'll ask our CEO, Helen Swee, to respond.
Thank you, Anton. Through the Mayor, we acknowledge the importance of Racecourse Road and Ascot Vale Road for community connectivity and are working closely with the City of Melbourne to enhance active transport through the development of a strategic implementation plan for the area. Additionally, it is understood that the City of Melbourne development at 200 Epsom Road will include new pedestrian signals at Epsom Road and upgraded signals at Racecourse Road to assist with active transport connectivity and safety. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you, Anton, for your question. Item 8 is reports from delegates. Councillors, do we have any reports as delegates? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to report as the delegate for the Municipal Association of Victoria. We had our State Council meeting on Friday the 17th of May. Some moments of significance were a thanks and good wishes to Lord Mayor Sally Capp, who addressed the delegates, and we thanked her for her fine leadership over the past 6 years, and the enthusiasm that she's really brought to the local government sector. We also thanked Rohan Leppert, Councillor Leppert from the City of Melbourne, who will be stepping down from council, and he's been serving as the Metro Vice President of the MAV for quite some years and has made a tireless contribution to the sector from that position. There were about 70 or so motions that were largely uneventful. Moonee Valley had 2 resolutions that we took to State Council, and we had one on planning, which was combined with some motions from some other councils, and that passed with a majority of 98%. And the other motion was our heatwave motion, seeking some advocacy on clarity around council's role in dealing with cooling places and heat refuges during severe heat conditions, and that passed with a 95% majority, so no controversy there. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Are there any others? Item 9 is reports. 9.1 MV/38/2022 at 7 Tamar Street, Aberfeldy. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Is there? Councillor Isa. Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an application, as you mentioned, for 7 Tamar Street. It's for construction of 2 dwellings, 2 4-bedroom double-storey dwellings with a basement car park. Car park provisions meet the required number of spaces under our planning scheme. The application originally was 3-storey and with a rooftop garden, and there obviously significant number of objections to that. Amended plans were submitted, and those are the ones that come before us for approval tonight, which address some of those concerns about height and overdevelopment. The site itself is on a slope, so there are some, I guess, design elements that you don't see on all blocks where there are nice flat blocks, including that the basement car park towards the back of the basement is actually not below ground. But provision is made on the site to ensure that there's not any breaches of the overlooking requirements of the planning scheme. There are the report outlines some of the I guess borderline technical requirements of the basement, which are around the ramp angle and whether or not that will have cars bottoming out as it goes down, the clearance for that driveway, and also how the turntable, which is in the garage, can be practically used. I don't love the design of this and the practicality of how a future resident of this house or both of these houses will be able to use that, but there's technically no non-compliance with the planning scheme, so we don't have grounds to refuse the application on that basis. Otherwise, there are some objections that have been put forward by neighbours, and particularly around setbacks and overlooking and sunlight, solar access, which the report explains are consistent, if not with the standard, with the objective of the standard. So on that basis and on the basis of the detail in the report, I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, yeah, this isn't a perfect application by any stretch, and certainly there has been some work done to this application over quite some time to try to bring it into compliance, and in that time period the contextual streetscape has changed and transformed, and with the lowering of the built form, so knocking off a storey and it fitting in now more with the surrounding housing context, I think we're probably it sufficiently meets, as Councillor Hodgson articulated, it sufficiently meets the planning scheme while having some problematic elements, some of which need to be dealt with in the building permit process. So any structural engineering or required protection works for the basement don't form part of the planning process, and they need to be dealt with in the building permit process. Council's development engineer unit doesn't object to anything with respect to the basement, which is obviously important. There have been some concerns raised around some of the fencing heights, but I think there's been some misunderstanding about the floor level and the basement level, which are different, and so from where that fence is measured is perhaps been some confusion there. Being measured from the natural ground level, I think the height is only 1.8 metres, whereas it's significantly more to the basement level. So hopefully people who have raised those concerns with council can get that clarification through our planning department and understand why the officers have put forward this permit for approval. Sorry. So yeah, there are some technical answers that can answer those queries. There are a couple of things that do strike me as slightly problematic, but one being the parking arrangement, but also the degree of percentage of permeable ground. But there is a condition that the plans do need to meet the required permeability. They don't currently, but the permit's conditioned to require that. I'll leave it there, Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Sidebeck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've looked at this application quite intensively, and when you talk about technicalities and you don't know where there's some confusion about where the walls are being measured, well, on a plan like this, you actually measure it from the datum, and the datum is put there by the surveyor, and that's usually on the footpath or somewhere where the street level is. So if you take the datum and then you look at the walls, these are some significant walls put towards the neighbours. And all I can say is it might comply. It might comply to the guidelines. That's what we've got here. We're complying to the guidelines. Now, if this one gets through, you're opening the floodgates in Aberfeldy and throughout the whole municipality for triple stories to be placed everywhere, regardless of the undulation of the land. It's the datum that needs to be taken into account. So look for, if this gets passed by this council, look forward to more triple stories that are going to come your way in your wards.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. I can't support this proposal in its form. I understand that a lot of work since the consultation meeting has gone into achieve something that can potentially or is potentially acceptable to our planning department, and that's the officer's recommendation tonight. But I have a number of issues with this one. I guess it's under 500 square metres, so it's quite a small block. Wanting 2 units on it, fair enough. But there's some big issues I can see around the car parking and the use of the turntable in the basement. Basically, there's supposed to be a 500 mil distance either side of that. This is only proposing 150 mil, which will pretty much tell anybody reading this report that the basement won't be used for parking, and it's even a note in here saying that it may increase the likelihood of cars parking on the street or on the basement ramps, and that's only going to put pressure on the street parking, which is an issue throughout Aberfeldy currently in many streets. And the Res Code requires 2 car parks. Effectively, even though we might technically get it under these plans, it won't work in practice. And pretty much, as noted in the report, council won't assist if the tenants or the owners of these buildings have issues in regards to parking. We won't be able to assist because they will be ineligible for any parking permits, and it'll just be what it is. So I have issues around that, and also there's notes here about potential scraping of cars on the basement. It's like, really, I mean, we very rarely see issues such as these come up in planning applications, really. They're pretty much always addressed. But this one seems to have just sort of got through to the keeper effectively. And again, in regards to the scraping, we've noted that if there's any issues later on by the owners or the tenants of these buildings, council will not be able to address it or fix it. Obviously, they're going to be built, so I just don't see how it's actually going to work in practice. There's also the removal of the large canopy tree planting out the back, stating that there's potentially ability for larger canopy trees in the front. I don't know, I doubt it, but that's what the report says. So there's an issue for me with that.
Councillor Sharp, your time has expired.
Oh, is it? Can I please have 30 seconds? Sorry.
30-second
I'll be
extension.
really quick. Also, a big issue for me is the overshadowing here that's quite detailed in this report, probably because of the way this building is sited, but it says that there's ifs and buts around the overshadowing, but for me it's completely unacceptable, so I cannot support it in its form. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify actually that the original application was a 3-storey build with a basement, and I attended the consultation meeting a couple of years ago, so I'm pleased to see that that original application has been amended and decreased from 3 stories to 2, with an additional basement. I don't love this application. There are some issues there that I'm not really happy to sort of let through. I'm going to foreshadow a refusal in case this doesn't get up. I think everyone's sort of summarised the issues that I'm sort of worried about. Look, I want to support this because I like the idea of 4-bedroom townhouses. We need that sort of housing in the municipality. There are a lot of 3-bedroom townhouses, but 4, I really want to encourage that sort of housing. And I know that the officers have worked with the applicant to come up with workable solutions, so I'm pleased to sort of see that. The issues raised around, the basement and the turntable inside the garage, I'm not sure, actually not sure what I'm going to do here, so I think I'll just leave it at that and see what others have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak? As there has been dissent, I'll ask Councillor Hodgson whether she would like to close.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I do understand a lot of the comments around the table. As I mentioned, though, in my speaking to the motion, the issues in the basement, while pretty impractical, technically are not grounds to refuse this application. I'd love to see it be a little bit more useful. I think the 150 mil thing is, means that you're not going to be able to open your car door if you park next to another car. But I do disagree, though, that approving this application will open the floodgates to 3-storey buildings. It is a 2-storey building. The maximum building height for this building, as assessed, is 8.2 metres in an area that allows for 11 metres. So I think it is, something in favour of this application that the applicants have taken on board that feedback and reduced the height. I've also neglected to mention, much like, thank you, Councillor Isa, for bringing up the permeability of the site. There is also a condition in there to ensure that drainage from the site is managed appropriately and directly to a point of discharge, because I know that was a concern raised by neighbours with the sloping block, that runoff from rainwater can be an issue, so that will be conditioned through the permit. The other parts of the application that have been conditioned, I think, bring this application into an acceptable range, and I hope that people are able to see that, because I think that the grounds to refuse this permit aren't strong. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Adams, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isa, Councillor O'Neill. All those against? Councillors Byrne, Sharp, Sypek, Tyson. On the casting vote of the Mayor, I declare that motion lost. As you have foreshadowed a motion and there's a statutory requirement, Councillor Adams, do you require an adjournment to form your refusal motion? No? Do you require an adjournment? Yeah, all right. I'll adjourn the meeting for 10 minutes and we'll return at 10 minutes past 7. Welcome back, everyone. We now having we are on MV/38/2022 7 Tamar Street, Aberfeldy. The officer's recommendation has failed. Councillor Adams has foreshadowed a motion. Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation with a amendment, please.
Yep. What's your amendment?
It's to add a condition 1R that reads, the floor to ceiling heights reduced for both dwellings to 2.7 metres at the ground floor level and to 2.5 metres at the first floor level.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, the amendment conditions to reduce the floor to ceiling height of the ground floor level to 2.7 metres, which is 189 millimetres reduction, and the first floor level to 2.5 metres, which is a 200 millimetre reduction. And it still leaves good internal amenity for the proposed dwellings. So I hope that goes some way to address the overshadowing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor O'Neill. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Mayor, could I just ask a point of clarification?
Yep.
I can see the amendment to attachment 1, but I'm not sure what we're voting on as the actual resolution, the wording of the
Yep, there has
resolution.
been a change in process for planning permits, so we'll just get the officer's recommendation, the amendment up. So it reads that Council resolves to issue a notice of decision to grant a permit in relation to planning permit application number MV/38/2022 at 7 Tamar Street, Aberfeldy, parentheses lot 16 on plan of subdivision 011987 for the construction of 2 dwellings in accordance with the following endorsement conditions. I'll ask governance whether it's been moved in the appropriate fashion. Yep, it's been moved in the appropriate fashion. Does that satisfy? Do you have any further questions, Councillor Hodgson?
If it's compliant, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor, and I will. And I didn't support the officer's recommendation for a number of reasons, most of which Councillor Sharp touched on. And what this condition does is effectively lower it by about that much. And for me, adding a condition that lowers it by that much isn't actually enough to sway me to now support the application. I still think there are considerable issues with the application. It was obviously debated on prior, so I won't necessarily go through them, but this, just lowering it by that much won't sway my decision making. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I must concur with Councillor Byrne. What we have here is a reduction in total height about the size of this water canister. And I just had a look on the Equinox plans, which is the shadowing plan. It's going to make absolutely no difference whatsoever. Reducing it by this much is not going to alleviate any of the concerns that were raised by neighbours or the objectors. Absolutely nothing. I heard that we were going to have a refusal, but now we've got a reduction of a water canister. I'm sorry, but all we're doing here, Mr Mayor, is we're still serving the same meal, but we're just moving the garnish around, and I can't support this.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I'll just speak specifically to the overshadowing, and I'm just trying to quickly pull up the officer's comment about that. I might just have to speak to it from memory, and if I make an error or make a mistake, someone can perhaps pull me up. But my understanding about the overshadowing was that the overshadowing in the neighbouring properties doesn't comply already because the buildings are facing, or the overshadowings to the private open space is to the south, so the north overshadows it already. And so in that situation, it's quite difficult to then condemn the next building for what it then, the overshadowing that it then adds to that. And there's a certain formula, you know, there's some allowance for the fact that it already doesn't comply. So it's a really tricky thing to deal with for this particular site, where all of these buildings have their private open space to the south of the built form. Look, I understand that this is not a terribly significant change to this built form, but I guess the fact that no one else around the table is putting forward any grounds for a refusal in the form of a motion perhaps speaks to the fact that there are no grounds for refusal that our planners are able to assist with to refuse this. So I think, you know, we're back to where we were, which is that there are some technical difficulties with this application. It is not perfect, and no one around the table is suggesting that it is, but it complies sufficiently with the planning scheme. It is a difficult block to build on. It is a sloping block. Neighbouring homes have done a very similar thing to this particular development, albeit this is obviously the two dwellings, which adds to the issues of the permeability and density, etc. But I think, you know, there's no one around the table is coming up with any greater grounds for refusal, and I think that we're probably obliged to pass this imperfect application.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak?
Mayor, can I just foreshadow a refusal, please?
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Councillor Isa is right in that our planning team have advised Council that there are no legitimate grounds for refusal. So it is a very tricky application, this one, and it's certainly, speaking on my own behalf, I haven't seen something like this for quite a while. But I think at the end of the day, this is where Res Code and the guidelines let us as a council down, and even our residents down, when things aren't tight enough, and clauses and technicalities can effectively let a very, very imperfect planning application go through because there's no grounds for refusal. So yeah, it is a tough one, but for me, like, you know, it's a very small block, and to be trying to put two on it, reducing the height will reduce the height slightly. I understand that, and this is obviously a way to at least make a decision tonight, because as a council we also cannot not make a decision on a planning application. So I certainly understand what Councillor Adams is trying to do here, and commend her for that. I just can't change my decision to not support it based on that height. But yeah, like I said, I think for me it's all down to Res Code, and it's a tiny block. Trying to put two on it, I don't know what, you're just going to get something that isn't really practical or going to work, so I can't support it.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Councillor Hodgson, you're the only councillor who hasn't spoken. Would you like to? No? As there's been some dissent, I'll ask Councillor Adams whether you would like a right of reply.
I will. Thanks, Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Isa and Councillor Sharp, for articulating that. Look, like I said before, I don't love this application. There are a lot of issues, but I think that the unusual slope of the land creates challenges for this type of build. And like I said earlier, I attended the consultation meeting a couple of years ago, and pleased to see that the height has decreased from 3 stories to 2. and actually there have been quite a few changes made from that original application. And I know the planning officers have worked with the applicant to come up with workable solutions. There really aren't any grounds to refuse this, so I'm just hoping that this further condition goes some way to address concerns. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's Councillor Adams, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isa, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Tyson. All those against? Councillors Byrne, Sharp and Sypek. I declare that carried. We now move on to item 9.2, MV/783/2022, 14 Marshall Street, Flemington. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. I will move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Adams. Councillor Hodgson.
Mayor, this application is for a double-storey extension on a property that has a heritage overlay down in Marshall Street in Flemington. It's a street that's one of the well-loved and very intact streets in our municipality with a heritage overlay, and this is a contributory building to it. And the heritage overlay is the only trigger for this one to come to us for council consideration. It's an interesting one. That largely what advice we get in heritage overlays is that it's about making sure the facade is intact and in its original form. And this one, in order to conceal the double-storey extension is well set back from the front of the property, and on that basis the Heritage Advisor doesn't have any objections. They did, however, suggest that over the carport that the applicant should build essentially a fake hipped roof to further conceal the second-storey development. So it's not one you see very often, because usually the heritage advice would be to not change the facade. This will change it from its original form, but it will do so in a way that is still consistent with the overall look and feel of the street and the period of homes. So I do understand the objections that have come from people who love the street and love the heritage fabric of the street. But we do have, we can't penalise people who are living in heritage overlays from being able to, within the planning scheme guidelines, make changes to make their homes more livable. So in this instance, I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation. I will just also note that some of the other objections relate to things like overlooking, overshadowing and things which are not part of the assessment at this planning permit stage, given that the trigger was just the heritage overlay. But those things will be assessed at the building permit stage, and it will be ensured that those are compliant. I know that the resident who lives directly behind was worried about the two-storey extension and whether that would overlook into their yard. That will be assessed at the next stage of the process. So I just wanted to give that assurance. And otherwise, happy to listen to debate.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a little bit confused. I know this is the heritage overlay that we're discussing here, but I find it difficult.
Microphone, Councillor Sypek.
Sorry. I find it difficult that we want to preserve our heritage in Moonee Valley, and I think a double-storey application at the back there, and like Councillor Hodge said, there's going to be overshadowing problems there as well at the planning stage. And I just hope a jug of water is not going to solve that one there as well too, because I'm really concerned, and I don't think I can support the officer's recommendation in this case. Thank
you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. I will foreshadow a refusal on this particular application on the grounds of heritage, on the grounds of the heritage overlay. Marshall Street's a really beautiful street, and it was recently given a heritage overlay, that little precinct around Edinburgh Street. And so I can understand why this application's taken some time to work through, and why the initial advice from our council's heritage advisor was to object to the proposal based on the bulk and scale of the extension out the back. Those plans have been amended, and so what's before us is not that original version. This version is supported by the heritage advisor, but I guess what I'm responding to is a sort of this odd situation where what's passed the heritage test is putting in a mock Edwardian hip roof at the front to then obscure the contemporary form at the back. The heritage advice, and we're so used to these applications in Flemington and Ascot Vale, the heritage advice is that contemporary extensions to the rear of properties are desired under our guidelines because they provide that contrast, and in fact the mock heritage architecture is usually what is objected to. But in this case, the approval's coming about because of mock heritage architecture to then obscure the contemporary design. And to me, the inconsistency that presents with respect to what our guidelines are, I understand our guidelines being the intent of our guidelines and what they're trying to achieve, means that I can't support this application. I'll leave it there and have foreshadowed a refusal.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? As there's been some dissent, I'll ask Councillor Hodgson whether she would like to close.
Thanks, Mayor. And look, in response to some of Councillor Sypek's comments, I will just say that whilst objections were raised with concerns about whether overlooking, loss of privacy, overshadowing existed, those things haven't been assessed. So unlike the last application where we had very detailed shadow diagrams of what the impact will be, I will say that this the property that raised overshadowing concerns sits to the north of this property. And so in reality, the way that, the sun moves, the overshadowing will be to the street side and actually fall onto the property, not onto the neighbouring property to the north. So my comments there were just to provide some assurance to that objector that those things will be looked at and considered, particularly overlooking, and any screening will be ensured at that process, but overshadowing is not a concern in my view in this application. The problems that Councillor Isa has raised about the contradiction, I guess, in the heritage is something that I've given myself comfort for, because when we consider putting heritage overlays on properties, we do so hoping that the residents in those overlays will love their homes as well and will want to stay there and protect the heritage. In this to not allow people to make the home functional for their families, I think in this instance where a solution has been found, albeit a not ideal one, I consider that allows, for the objective that I hope when we have heritage homes to be achieved, for people to love living in heritage areas.
Councillor Hodgson, your time has expired.
Can I have 20 seconds to...
30-second extension.
Thank you. That the Heritage Advisor's advice and the changes to the plans have enabled this family home to remain in this family and for them to love the heritage character of the home as much as the municipality does. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Adams, Byrne, O'Neill, Hodgson, Sharp, Tyson. All those against? Councillors Isa and Sypek. I declare that carried. We now move on to item 9.3, Indoor Sports Stadium Update. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Byrne.
I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sypek. Councillor Byrne.
Yeah, well, it's kind of really hard to speak on this one because this has obviously been something that's been on the table, just highball in general, meaning by that, for a long time. And I know I've spoken to a few people over the weekend, and people are obviously bitterly disappointed that this council hasn't been able to take, you know, what they see as a realistic next step in regards to achieving a highball stadium for this municipality. Back in about 2016, there was thought that there would be a 12-court stadium, potentially 2 6s, but they wanted 12 courts, and that quickly sort of got knocked down. And then it was even put in our council plan, the 2021 council, 17 to 21 council plan. And then anyway, there's been things that have happened, COVID has hit, and we're down and down and down. Now we're looking like we can't necessarily afford a highball stadium by ourselves, and we've put our hands out and said, please help us. We had a really quite a big election commitment from the Liberal state opposition, but we haven't really had, a couple of years ago, but we haven't really had a lot of other, help or offers in order to help us get there. So it kind of leaves us in a position now where I can completely understand that there is a very large basketball community, a very large netball community, and a large volleyball community that would be so disappointed that they thought that they elected a council that would deliver a highball stadium, and that we haven't been able to do that. And yeah, it hurts sitting here to say that that is the reality. We've tried, but we haven't got there. So where to next? There's a few options that this report will hopefully look at, which is potentially going for a combination of owned and leased locations. It might be that we won't necessarily go for 6 courts at Queengrove, it might be 3. I think probably 4 would be good. We sort of know that 3 at Keilor didn't work, and then they need to build another 3, so I would say 4 would probably be better, and then potentially 3 somewhere else. It could be other multiple lease locations, or we could look at like Queengrove Precinct and another suitable site. Some of the potential sites that may be looked at would be Strathmore Secondary College, Windy Hill, Avondale Heights Community Stadium, Queengrove Precinct as mentioned, and other non-council owned or managed land holdings. I will leave it at that. Nothing else to say really. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very disappointed that we haven't got a highball stadium within this municipality. How other municipalities do it, I don't know, but for some reason this council does not have an appetite to support our highball sports. Lord knows Councillor Byrne and I have been struggling for years to try and get this highball court at Queengrove.
Point of order, please, Mayor.
Yep. What is your point of order?
I'm sorry, but Governance Rule 28, any motion which is determined by the chair to be defamatory. Am I saying the right thing?
So 28, there's 50, clause 50.
Or 55.4, that chair must not accept conduct that constitutes improper behaviour or conduct contrary to the councillor code of conduct. Mine doesn't say that. Thanks.
What's your point of order?
Oh,
So 55.4. And what is the improper behaviour or conduct contrary to the code of conduct?
Councillor Sypek has just stated that councillors around this table, all 9 of us, or at least 7 of us, do not support highball, and that is defamatory and totally incorrect.
I won't uphold the point of order for now, but I will ask Councillor Sypek to be cautious in his language going forward. Councillor Sypek.
Okay. We've had the basketball and the highball community requesting this. I've been on council for quite a while, and it's not just this council term. This is over 3-4 council terms. So I'm just saying, I didn't say that councillors, I said council didn't have an appetite. So I'm not saying this council, I'm saying council in total. Over the 16, 20 years since I've been on council, there's always been a demand for the highball court. So I'm just hoping that, in the future, I think that, if we can get to a point where we can deliver something, maybe not 6, maybe 4, I don't know. I don't know what the situation is. But I think we need to do something for our community to do this, because if other councils can do it, why can't we?
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Hodgson, I think, was first there. Sorry, Councillor O'Neill.
No,
Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I actually look at this recommendation, and I'm supportive of the officer's recommendation with a bit more hopefulness and positivity. I think this is taking the next realistic step to achieve having a highball stadium in Moonee Valley, and I think that over the term of this council, we've seen on multiple occasions that there is a strong appetite to try and meet that unmet demand for many sports in our municipality who require an indoor stadium. The expression of interest process, whilst it is a bit disappointing that it didn't produce a suitable proposal for us to proceed, it did, as the report outlines, bring to us some new ideas and opportunities for us to explore further, and those are what I think will be the next realistic step to trying to achieve this outcome for our community. So I look to this resolution with positivity. I know that people were hoping that we would be able to put a shovel in the ground this term. The complexities of trying to deliver a stadium have defeated us in this 4-year period, but have not defeated us overall. And I think we've got some really, as I say, I look forward in hope to continuing to work through what the issues are and being able to realise this unmet demand. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that so highball and the indoor stadium, my arrival on council 4 weeks ago, this has been a topic that has been discussed every single week. So I appreciate there's some emotion and there's a really big want and desire for something in Moonee Valley. It is disappointing that the expression of interest didn't return anything immediate to deliver a highball stadium, but it is encouraging that perhaps there's been some partnerships that are identified for something in the future, and I hope that we will continue to investigate those, and hopefully this doesn't sit on someone's desk unlooked at for the next 6 months. I really hope that this is something that will drive some hopefully discussions and so seeing if there is a possibility to deliver something in the shorter term. I think that the Queen Grove Master Plan, I think there's a lot of potential for Queen Grove. My personal opinion is the Master Plan does have its challenges, both in size, but there is certainly some benefit to many communities, not just basketball, but with soccer and the community groups that utilise that area as well. And I hope that when we can further investigate these other opportunities with perhaps some other locations, we can then revisit Queen Grove and have a better understanding of what we actually need there. It is a difficult project because it's a very large scale project, so financially it's a really big cost, and the feasibility with finding the right location. But I think that reading this report, I think it is just a step in the right direction, albeit a very small step and a very slow step, but hopefully we will get there one day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, look, I feel like I've read a completely different report, because what I take from this report is some really concrete ideas for how we can progress with this. And this report, I think, gives absolutely helpful, clear advice from our officers about how to achieve high ball in Moonee Valley. But it's asking us to rethink some things that we've perhaps been a bit fixated on over the past few years, and that we've had to work through to really understand what the market forces might be and the parameters around our limitations in trying to achieve that. But this report tells us some ways that we can go forward to deliver high ball in Moonee Valley. I think that what there has been a strong appetite for is to not overspend on a project in this way. And this report sets out that the master plan in its entirety is unaffordable, and that we've perhaps been chasing our tails a bit for the past few years because we've been trying to do something that's a fantasy, and with a bit of a reality lens now that we've gone out to EOIs and people have there were no proposals for Queen Grove, but B, they were determined to be not viable. We have to be a bit more real about how we want to achieve high ball in Moonee Valley, and the report sets out some options for us in terms of looking at some smaller scale possibilities, partnering in a number of ways that Councillor Byrne and Councillor Hodgson both spoke to. So I see this as helping us to get off a bit of an unsuccessful merry-go-round on this, and giving us some direction to move this forward. As we are ending this term in 4 months, it does mean that it's going to be for the new council to pick this up, and that's great. You know, we've done some hard work over 4 years and our officers, I probably need to say our officers have done so much hard work over 4 years to help us really understand how we can deliver something for our large basketball community. But I think we just can't kid ourselves anymore, or give unrealistic expectations to the community. We have to be honest with our community about what's affordable from council. We've got really good information in front of us now, and I don't think it's something to be down on the work that has been done. We have worked really hard, and I'll just obviously have to try to leave it there, but the intention is to deliver something.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, this term we've spent a lot of time exploring different opportunities to deliver a solution to the high ball need. And although it has taken time, I think it has helped us tremendously to understand the pros and cons of various ideas that have been presented for various sites. Ideally, a 6-court indoor sports facility in Moonee Valley would be amazing. However, as this report clearly outlines, this is categorically unrealistic and unachievable at Queen Grove. The officers have been really clear in their advice, and I support the officers' recommendation here to explore how we can resolve the conflicting needs at various sites before the Queen Grove Precinct Master Plan is completed. I am disappointed that we haven't been able to produce a suitable proposal to deliver a stadium through the EOI process. However, I understand that partnership opportunities are being further explored, and I think it's more realistic to build multiple 2 to 4 court indoor sports facilities rather than a big one in one location. There are some really good suggestions to explore further opportunities in this report, as others have outlined. Considering school sites such as Strathmore Secondary College mentioned in the report opens up partnership and funding opportunities that officers will be exploring. I also think investigating sites such as Windy Hill is a great idea. I think this is the best, most logical and sensible and realistic way forward to find a solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Sharp, you are the only councillor who hasn't spoken. Would you like to speak?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it is disappointing that the EOI process hasn't facilitated an outcome or an actual way forward for us to have a highball stadium be built within Moonee Valley. I think we're probably all hoping for that, as were, I'm sure, many people in the community. But I think going through that process has provided us some more options that maybe, well, not maybe, I don't think anyone had thought about, so that's obviously a positive. I think there's still quite a number of balls in the air, and we're trying to juggle a number of things to achieve an outcome that benefits a number of different users, potentially, in order to sort the highball out. But look, we're in Moonee Valley and there's no land around here, so it's going to be a difficult task. But there are options, and I think we do have to stay positive. As other councillors have mentioned, it most likely won't be a big 6-court if we are able to do anything. But yeah, there's way forward. It's just a shame that it's taken so long to get to this point. But yeah, it's not all lost, I don't think.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. I'm unclear whether there's been dissent in this motion. Have any councillors spoken against this motion? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 9.4 is submission to the inquiry into local government sustainability. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is now on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Isa.
Happy to move the officer's recommendation. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Isa.
Yeah, look, it's a good one to follow up on our previous discussion, because what this is a submission to an inquiry happening at the federal government level, and there's one happening at the state government level later this year, which is really seeking, quite pleasingly, seeking some feedback from the local government sector on our financial capacity to do all the work that we need to do and our sustainability. And it's great that we've got this opportunity to put forward some of the things that are constraining us from delivering on some of the projects, like what we've just been speaking about. And so the submission goes through a number of the things that are that make our work quite challenging at local government level. One of those is the context of rate capping, but particularly where we haven't been able to match inflation CPI levels. Hopefully that will resolve sometime soon, but while inflation's been high, we've been falling backwards and it's been quite tricky. Climate change is also mentioned as something that's really presenting us with some challenges, and the extra additional costs that councils are incurring in our efforts to mitigate and then also address impacts of climate change. Cost shifting, and there's some really interesting data that's included in our submission that show that sometimes it's the case that we might get a grant or get contributions from a level of government to help us set up a particular service or establish a particular service, but then over time the assistance from the other level of government is withdrawn, and that cost shifting then to local government has left us with about $5 million of incurred costs over the period that's talked about in the submission. An interesting point's made about grant funding, that what grants are usually prioritising new builds, and we have a lot of buildings and facilities in our municipality that need maintenance, need renewal, and it's very difficult to get money from other levels of government to help with that side of facility upkeep. And there's also an interesting point made around councils responding to cost of living pressures. So our submission is a good read for anyone who wants to understand those financial pressures that we are facing as a sector, and why we often do talk about in this chamber those very difficult decisions about how to spend our increasingly scarce budgetary resources. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor, and I'll just pick up on that point. It is actually a really engaging read, and I thank the officers who put it together. It paints a very clear picture, I think, of some of those challenges that Rose has highlighted. And I note that there's a couple of members of our community advisory panel who have stuck with us through the evening, who, when they presented to us, indicated, that they really, over the 4 weeks that they worked on the housing statement, went through a bit of a journey of understanding what are the push and pull factors that councillors have to engage with in our decision making. This is a document that, from a different perspective, from the sort of cost pressures rather than from how to deliver housing for all, outlines some of those issues really clearly. And I encourage anyone who is interested in understanding more about local government, or even thinking about standing for council, to have a read, because it's a really great piece of work. And I hope that it, in submitting this to the inquiry, I hope that it shines a light on some of those issues, and is a catalyst for change. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 9.5 is Financial Performance Report March 2024. The officer's recommendation is on the screen. Is there a motion? Councillor Adams.
I'll move the officer's recommendation. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. Council is required to receive quarterly financial performance reports. This report is for the period the 1st of July 2023 to 31 March 2024. In line with good governance, it forms part of the public accountability process and reporting, and includes the operating statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, and capital expenditure. A summary of the financial performance for the period 1st of July 2023 to 31st of March 2024 is as follows. With regard to the operating surplus, the year-to-date favourable surplus is predominantly due to higher income received from rates and charges and statutory fees and fines, combined with an underspend in materials and services. This is offset by lower income from grants and contributions and increased depreciation. With regard to capital works, the $13.4 million final carry forward from 22-23, along with the 23-24 adopted budget of $51.9 million, creates a revised budgeted capital program of $65.3 million for the 23-24 financial year. The year-to-date underspend is due to a range of factors, including timing of expenditure with some projects behind schedule, a limited market, availability of fleet and materials, lack of market interest in tenders, and contract availability. The annual variance includes $16.5 million carried forward to 24-25. With regard to cash and investments, the year-to-date favourable variance is due to the higher opening cash position at the beginning of the financial year of $10.8 million, timing differences in cash flows from operating activities and investing activities. The annual forecast unfavourable variance is due to the carrying forward of $13 million of borrowings in 24-25. Regarding the debt levels, the year-to-date balance is based on the $10 million received in June 2021. the 23-24 budget of $16 million plus the $23 million of carried over borrowings from 22-23 have not been drawn down at this stage. Council endorsed in the council meeting held on the 12th of December 2023 to reduce the carried over borrowing amount of $5 million from $23 million to $18 million. So the amended 23-24 budget, including carried over borrowings, is $34 million. Council endorsed in the council meeting held on the 23rd of April 2024 to reduce borrowings by $6 million. So the amended 23-24 budget, including carried over borrowings, is $28 million. Of this amount, $15 million has been included in the annual forecast of $13 million carried forward to 24-25. Councillors and the organisation have been working really hard to find ways to reduce our borrowings, and I'm really pleased that we can further reduce carried forward borrowings by $3 million, being for contingent grants, related liability that have been confirmed by the funding body as no longer required, which is what this motion is noting. In conclusion, the finance report for the 9 months ended 31st of March 2024 indicates that Council's overall financial position for the year ending 30 June 2024 is sound. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't think there's much more to add to that. There was a lot of numbers. Thank you, Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Isa.
I just wanted to really quickly mention and thank the CEO and team for that work that's been done to reduce or to find the allocation of $3 million in savings that's been identified in the carryover from, sorry, I think I'm reading up the wrong notes there, but the CEO knows what I'm talking about, the $3 million that they've been able to reduce. It's really, look, the effort that goes into making sure that we run a really tight ship, given the extent of the Capital Works program that we inherited as a council, and I just continue appreciation for the work that's done on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 9.6 is Capital Works Performance Report, quarter ended March 2024. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sharp. Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. This is the quarter 3 Capital Works Performance Report, one more quarter to go. And it details that we've spent $24,623,008 out of an approved total budget of $65,350,030. I'm not as good at reading out numbers as Councillor Adams. That is our total budget, including carry forwards. That doesn't seem like it's as much as you'd hope 3/4 of the way through, but we know with Capital Works programs that the bulk of money does go out the door in the 4th quarter, just given, you know, when budget approval happens and then things go out for tender and then things take a little while to start and then final bills are paid at the end of the year. So the report outlines those programs projects that have already been completed, which is really great. A bunch of our early years services and kindergartens and childcare centres have had much needed upgrades and building maintenance. A couple of our local area traffic management plan actions have been completed, which is great. We love to see those being actioned. The Fanny Street BMX modular pump track, some cricket nets in Clifton Park, and a number of things that were previously reported already. The report also updates us on a change request totaling $75,000, and that's to increase the tree planting budget because we were successful in receiving some grant money from DECA to that value, so that's great. And it notes some of the key challenges that we're facing in the delivery of the Capital Works program, including a number of projects that have low delivery confidence. A number of those are due to some external factors, and the report outlines those. They include external authority approvals and some of the industry challenges that we've spoken about a lot around the chamber. There are some other low delivery confidence projects that we already know will be carry forwards. Some of those were subject to cost escalations that have meant that additional budget is required, and in Q2 we were alerted to those, and we referred a couple to the budgeting process through that report. A couple of examples of Fairburn Soccer Grounds and the Aviation Themed Playground at Centreway, and those ones that were being considered they're actually being considered by Council for removal through the budget process, and I know we've heard some feedback already. There's the final point there, the point C is about the Greenspine public toilet, which it's great to see that can now be fully funded through the open space reserve. So there's a reduction in the borrowing amount required for that project of $353,236. I think that's about it. I think, we look forward to seeing another really successful year. I know our team works so hard to deliver a very large and complicated capital works program each year, and Q4 I know will be very busy.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Sharp. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Isa.
Councillor Hodgson went through the projects very thoroughly, but I just wanted to draw people's attention to the attachment that does list all of the projects and does help people to understand why we're only, at this point in time, 38% into our delivery of our capital works. And it perhaps helps to paint that picture of, why we've had to make some really difficult decisions over the past few weeks around some capital works projects, because we had a $50 million capital works program this budget, and we had a carry forward of 13 or 16 $1 million, or maybe even it was 19. I've just lost the figure from in front of me at the moment, but it was it was a high number of projects that we didn't deliver last year, and it's that sort of context that we're having to make decisions to remove some projects because we're just not able to deliver everything that's been on the books. So if people wanted to look down the attachment and to look at all of the projects that we had in the budget last year to see which ones we've been able to fully realise and which ones we haven't, it helps to explain some of the decisions that have perhaps been talked about a little bit, such as the removal of the aviation playground that was mentioned earlier this evening. The context that we have is that there are a number of external factors that contribute to our capacity to deliver, whether it's labour costs or material costs or other such things that Councillor Hodgson spoke to. So I just wanted to draw attention to for people to look through that for that more fulsome picture about the capital works program that we're trying to deliver.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 9.7 is minutes of Audit and Risk Committee meeting 18 March 2024. The officer's recommendation is on the screen. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. Sorry.
What's your motion? Sorry, Councillor Adams.
Oh, sorry. I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Did the mic pick that up? You
Probably
move the
not.
officer's
I'll
recommendation.
move the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sypek. Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. The Audit and Risk Committee assists Moonee Valley City Council in fulfilling its responsibilities relating to financial and performance reporting, risk management, corporate governance and internal control systems. This motion is receiving and noting the confirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on the 18th of March 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 9.8 is 2023/24 Q3 Council Expenses Report. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Isa. Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. This one is a quarterly report that comes to us just for transparency reasons for the community to show what our councillor expenses, what expenses councillors incurred, and this is for the period 1 January 24 to 31 March 24. Feel free to check it out.
Thank you. Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 10 is notices of motion. However, we have none listed on tonight's agenda. Item 11 is urgent business. Councillors, do we have any urgent business? Item 12 is confidential reports. However, there are none listed on the agenda. So therefore, I close the meeting at 8:06 p.m. And we thank everyone at home for joining us, as well as those in the public gallery. We'll see you next time.